Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Dashboard Fridays. I'm Adam from Squared Up and I'm joined today by Mike. Hi Mike.
Hi there, Adam.
Mike is our customer support manager, so any of you who've ever logged a support request with Squared Up support will have probably either dealt with Mike or a member of his team. Mike is here today to talk to us about a dashboard he's built for Zendesk, which is the ticketing platform we use. So Mike, I'll bring your dashboard up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you built this dashboard?
Yeah, sure. So Zendesk is obviously the application we use where customers raise their tickets for us, be it a problem on Squared Up, questions or feature requests. Everyone in Squared Up can have access to Zendesk, so they can see individual tickets, see data on those tickets, but they can't actually get an overview of sort of how many tickets we're receiving in a month, or whether it's on a particular area of Squared Up that's having an issue. Zendesk do provide another tool called Zendesk Explore, which allows you to sort of log in and do queries, but that requires additional licenses and then obviously knowledge of writing their queries. Thought why not use the API and let's use one of our wonderful dashboards for displaying this result.
Nice. So I guess unlike some of the other topics we've covered in this series, Zendesk, like you mentioned, they actually have a full sort of analytics platform that sits on top of their big database. Like all analytics tools, again, it's another thing. You have to get into it. You have to know how to use it, that kind of stuff. So why not have a dashboard, right? And here at Squared Up, shame on us if we didn't. Why don't you just talk us through what's on this dashboard that we're seeing on screen? Is this all live data? Is this all made up, or are we actually?
So this is live data from our system, and the dashboard defaults to the last 30 days. But we can use the dashboard time frame to go through different periods of time. So the dashboard actually provides service delivery data that I can use to see how my team is reacting to support tickets, and obviously provide that information to the business, and also information on sort of areas of the product that perhaps are interesting to our PMs and engineering teams. So what you can see on the top line, we just have the two tiles. First of all, one that's just doing a count of how many new tickets have come in the last 30 days. And then the one to the right of that is how many tickets per day, so that we can try and see if there's any pattern. Are Mondays, the first day after the weekend, a busy day for tickets, or is there a rush on Friday to get those sort of questions into us? On the second row, nice row of donuts. Everyone likes donuts. So here, this is more sort of service related data, so I can see how many tickets have been raised on a particular version of our product. So, for example, SCOM edition or Azure edition or the community edition, and feature requests. And then moving over to the next one is out of those tickets, how many are sort of question related, maybe asking how to do something within Squared Up, how many are reporting a problem, and once again, sort of how many feature requests. The third one, we have two ways of raising tickets, either via our website or via sending an email into support@squaredup.com. So this just shows the breakdown of that. And then the final one is just showing what the status of these 109 tickets are currently in. Using a new feature from Halfacree as well for the donut tile, which is the percentage rather than just a count of that. And then on the bottom row, what we've got here, top 10 topics. Useful for our engineering teams to see, is there a particular area in the product that perhaps we're getting a lot of tickets on? For example, this was quite useful last year with open access. We used to see sort of month after month quite a lot of tickets on open access. We were able to sort of provide that data back to engineering, and that was one of the things that actually led to the redesign that you see with open access in version 5. Back to sort of service delivery, I can see how many tickets my support agents have handled in the last 30 days, just to see whether there's sort of an even spread. The one after that is replies per ticket. So how many replies has each ticket had? So at the top here, you can see 38 tickets, 2 replies, 29 1. Obviously, we want to see high numbers of tickets with low amount of replies. So that this tells me that we're solving these tickets quicker. And then the final tile is the conditional scaler, and it's using the new 5.3 formatting where you can actually have a color based on a value. So at the moment, I have that set to anything under 60 minutes, show as green, 60 or above sort of goes to red. So just knows that we're getting to that first reply in less than an hour to our customers.
Nice. So it's a nice mix of just sort of like usage trend, segmenting the cases by where they've come through, how they were logged, and then also some useful data that other teams can consume, like those topics, that kind of thing. So what tile types you mentioned? Obviously, we can see donuts and scales. Are these Web API, PowerShell? What's behind them?
So all the tiles are based on PowerShell. One of the reasonings behind this is that, like with most APIs, there's limits that come into play here. Two of the endpoints that we're hitting with this dashboard from Zendesk is the search endpoint and the ticket metrics. They have a limit of 1,000 results per API call, but they also break that down further into pagination. So you actually only get 100 results per each API call. One of the problems with using our web API tile is that we can only make that one call, so we'd only get back 100 results. By using the PowerShell, we can actually do the full 10 API calls, combine those results together, and deliver up to 1,000 results if required.
So with the web API tile, you'd probably be able to get that. For example, that 109, it probably tells you how many cases match your search, but to actually get the data, you'd get 100 and then it would stop, right?
That's it. Yeah, the first call always returns a count of how many results you're expecting. But yeah, as far as the detail, it'd only then be the first 100 that you actually get detail on.
Can we take a look at the script behind that line graph?
Yeah, certainly. So let's just go into that, and here we go. Just zoom in a bit. So what we can see here is at the very top, this is where we're defining our page time frame. So the default ones that we see in squared up, last 1 hour, last 12 hours, last 24, all the way down to last 12 months. So we have that on all the tiles in this dashboard. So whenever you click the page time frame on the dashboard, it will update all the tiles for that relevant time frame. This line here, we're just converting it into a readable format, because otherwise the time just comes back as an epoch time, so a 12-digit number. Doesn't really make much sense, so we just have to convert that. The next section here is where we're actually making our connection. And what we're doing here, so we're making the initial call to Zendesk's API, to the search endpoint. Here, we're just actually pulling back the count value, like you were saying a moment ago. So what we would see is it would be 109. Then we've just got a variable here that we're setting up called pages, which basically says, okay, divide that count by 100 so that we get an idea of how many pages we're going to need to call to get the results. So in this example, there'd be 2 pages that we need to pull results back from. And the way we do that is in this loop here, we've got a $I variable set to 1. Whilst it's still less than the sort of value that we got from the count, we know to basically loop through and pull the next set of results. And you can see here that when we do our invoke REST method request, we just have the page added onto the URL so that we know which one to go through to get the full results. Once we get those results, all we want is basically the ticket ID and the time it was created at. One issue here with using the line graph is we want to do a count of how many tickets per date. The created at value actually responds with the full date time. No good for our line graph, because we'd just see one ticket created at 11:30, one created at 11:45, one at 2:15. So what we do just a bit further down here is we've got a loop that basically goes through and blanks out the time value, so that what we see is just basically a date. So then we're able to do our count on the date rather than the time value as well. What you then see is if we then go into our response data, we've just got created how many count, and as you can see, everything's set to 12 because we've blanked out the actual time for that.
Perfect. So I know we've seen some dashboards where you could put in the query. Yeah, I think Splunk does it. For example, you can tell it to bin the results into daily blocks or hourly blocks, whatever. But in this case, you're able to do that with PowerShell just by manipulating that date and then counting up whether they're the same. That's nice. Yeah, that works really well. And so even if there were 999 results, it would just figure out that there are 10 pages, and it would just do the loop over and over and stick them all into the same response.
That's correct. And, we certainly never get more than, nowhere near 1,000 a month, thankfully. So, this is perfectly fine for us. And I think it would be for sort of most people as well. Nice.
I guess if you were looking at, say, 3 months or going all the way back to, as much data as you could get, you're going to get into that territory, especially definitely where you need paging. It's a really nice way of doing it. Can you show us? I can't imagine Zendesk is helpful to actually give us things like people's names or people's names or the names of those ticket forms or anything. How are you getting everyone's name into the tile or the nice display text on those donuts?
That's right. So Zendesk stores a lot of its data as just an ID value, which going into the Zendesk application, you can then actually find out, for example, if I go to the ticket forms, you can find out what the ID actually relates to as far as the form that we've called it. If I was using the Web API tile here, I could use data mapping so that I could say ID value XXX equals SCOM edition, for example. So with the PowerShell tile, if I just expand that a little bit and go into the script, a similar sort of thing. What we're doing here is we're basically pulling the results back, and then here we're just converting the ticket form ID actually into a product name. So as you can see, the results we would get back from our API query is like an ID of 36001 313273. I know from going into Zendesk that actually relates to our SCOM edition form. So basically I'm just saying, okay, for every result return that has ticket form ID of that, actually change it to be the SCOM edition. And then further down, add to your feature requests, community editions, which basically means when we then see the final results, rather than just 61% and 147219 ID, which means nothing, I can obviously translate that and put that into a more English readable format.
Nice. We've looked at examples before using things like emojis or inline images, that kind of stuff, right? It's just doing the same thing. Fundamentally, you could have a nice fire emoji for all your problem tickets, that kind of thing.
Definitely, you can spice it up with some emojis, yeah. Knowing that you certainly like emojis, so yeah, so your dashboards have been good ones there.
I spotted in both of those tiles that you're using a PowerShell profile under the settings page. Is there anything specific in there that people should know about?
Yeah, so if we go to the environment, so yeah, I'm using a profile here that's just called Zendesk PS. If we go back up to system and to the PowerShell section, here I've got a number of profiles. Here's the one I use for this demo. And what I've basically got here is the base URL. I know that's always going to be the same in all the tiles. In the tiles, it then just allows me to sort of do plus and then the particular endpoint I'm hitting. So in this case, the search or the ticket metrics. And then I've got here the user name and the token, obviously false details there, so not to give away any clues to anyone. And then just some more variables I've defined that, are common ones that are used when we do the call to the API. So header information where it's doing the convert to a base 64 string, the type of method, be it get or post, the content type we want returned, and then whether there's anything in the body of the call that's needed.
Nice. So for those who maybe aren't aware of what you'd use a profile for, it's just an extra bit of script that gets run, but it gets run by every tile that's calling that profile. So in this case, if we move to the V3 API, you're just changing it in the profile, and you're not having to change every tile in every dashboard, right? You can just update things once.
And obviously, it's also a good place to store anything like, username and password information that's then not readily available to anyone that goes into the dashboard, only for administrators that go to look at the profiles. Nice.
Okay, so as well as getting the change in one place, if you have to update the password or whatever, you're also securing that away. Only Squared Up admins have access to this part. It's not in all the dashboard JSON. That's really neat. Is there anything else worth sort of just mentioning for anyone watching who's thinking about trying out this dashboard?
I think just give it a go. Certainly look at some of the PowerShell sort of commands. I'm relatively new to PowerShell. It's one of those where you sort of start playing around, and before you know it, you're sort of going, well, that's great, but what if I could do sort of something else? So you then start looking at, other things you can add to it. So it's addictive once you start, and
yeah. Nice. Well, thank you very much, Mike. I'm sure if anyone has any problems, they'd be obviously welcome to reach out to our friendly support team. I'll go ahead and just wrap us up. Thanks to everyone for watching. That dashboard will be available through our dashboard gallery, so squareup.com/dashboard gallery, as well as being able to ask support any questions. Just generally, if you need anything from us, check out community answers as well at community.squareup.com. Massive community of a few thousand people now. Who are experts in all sorts of stuff, monitoring, dashboarding, whatever you have a question about, technical question, head over to Community Answers and I'm sure we can get you an answer there. That's it for today. Thanks for joining us and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Adam.
Bye all.